Is this join webinar?
Philip, please, can you hear me?
Yes, Albert, I can hear you. Good morning.
So initially when I joined, it said that the chat box people are not able to post in the chat box.
Really?
Yes, so that was what I had
Okay.
before you changed my yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to
Box is
change.
disabled. So
All right.
please
Please hold
type
on,
that.
guys. Let's see. Trying to let's enable chat box. Can we please try now? Is the chat box still disabled? Great. I can see Alice. Hi, Alice. Great seeing you again. I hope you have a wonderful time today. God's gift. Yeah, great. Ebuka, hello. That's great. So I think, can everyone else hear us? Christy, Sapel. Oh, great. So practically everyone can hear us. I'm just waiting for Sean to connect, and then we're good to go because our guest panelist for today is...
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, you're here.
Another account, yes.
Sorry, I saw another Kavik logo and I was wondering. Can you please put your video since you'll be co-hosting this particular panel?
Okay, let me just sign out and sign in with my account.
Great. So once again, thank you guys for joining us. For those who missed our first session, I must admit you missed quite a lot. We learned about funding, and Sean's going to quickly just put us through that. We're just waiting for him to log back on in so that we can see his video as well, and in case he needs to share his slides and all. But I'd like to take this time to welcome Albert Opoko. Albert is an amazing investor and has been or is a great player or a major player in the ecosystem across Africa. He's done quite a lot of things. He currently sits on the board of Hyperspace, but he's also the CEO of HyperWeb, which is a tech-based company working out of Ghana. He is a British Council trainer, has done, in fact, he wears several hats, and I'm sure he will let us know more about himself, even as he introduces himself. Okay, I'm just waiting for Sean because Sean is co-hosting, and I'm waiting for him to sign on. But I guess while we're doing that, because there's a number of people here, Albert, could you please just tell us a bit about yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Albert. I am based here in Ghana and in the lovely city called Kumasi, which we also refer to as the Garden City. So I've been in a couple of different countries, and finally my parents decided that they would settle in Ghana, but for my parents are actually Ghanaian, so I grew up much more in Ghana. I started schooling in Ghana. I went to the University of Ghana, where I studied business administration, because for me, it was always going to be that So as soon as I was young, I was already sitting in my father's store working for things. So business was in my blood from day one. So it wasn't.
Sorry, Albert, sorry, I need to interrupt. There's a bit of latency on your end. And so your words, maybe you need to increase the bandwidth or
Okay.
Brilliant. I think we're fine now. Thanks.
Let me turn off my video. That will help with the latency. Okay, I think with the video being off, my latency should drastically improve. Is that okay now?
It's improved, but then you're going to have to share your screens and all. Will that affect it or not?
No, once I turn on the video, it shouldn't affect my screen, my presentation.
Okay, but okay, fantastic. But I think yeah, good now.
Okay.
I think we're just going to dive in. Sean is probably having some difficulty signing back on in, but he will join us when he can. So Albert, okay, Gift, could you please type your question in the chat box if you can hear me? Gift Magawa, yeah. And while Gift is doing that, Albert, I think you have the floor. Please continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
I wanted to share my screen, but it says it's been disabled.
It says your screen has been disabled.
It's a host disabled participant screen sharing. So.
Really? Okay, sorry. Just made you
Okay.
co-hosts. I think you're fine.
Okay, let me try now. Yes, I am fine.
Okay.
Also, if you can see my screen, let me just run you quickly a bit about myself. So I'm a co-founder of two key organizations, HyperWeb and Hyperspace. I'm an alumni of the University of Bath and the University of Stanford and the University of Ghana. So those are my school where I've schooled. Initially, I was trained as an accountant at the University of Bath and University of Ghana for my undergrad studies, where I studied business administration and actually majored in accounting. But I've always loved computers, and that's what I wanted to become. So I kind of changed career path along the way and became a computer programmer. So my master's degree is in computing or computer science. I'm an author and I've already released 2 books, and my 3rd book is coming out. My most recent book, which was released just a couple of months ago, is titled How to Quit Your Job and Become an Entrepreneur. Interesting one there. I'm in quite heavily in 2 farms here in Ghana. So I don't run it day by day itself. It's more of an investment in which I own majority shares in those farms. As you've also been informed, I invest a lot in other businesses. I'm what you call an early stage investor. So I like to invest in businesses that are not more than 2-year-old. That's the area I invest in. And I invest usually around the $10,000 to $50,000 mark, which is mainly to prove MVPs and then to bring other investors on board. So that's the area I typically invest in. Lastly, I'll say I'm a big Liverpool, and I was born into a family of Liverpool. A bit about me, but I might just add that before I left to form HyperWeb with my co-founder, I used to work with the British Council. I'm waiting for someone to break that record. I still was and is still the youngest manager ever at the British Council across all 135 countries. I became a manager for British Council at the age of 25. And before me that, the previous person was at the age of 38. So that was quite an achievement. I worked for the British Council for 5 years and left holding the position as digital services manager for the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. So I was responsible for everything IT for over 32 countries based in Africa. So that's a bit.
Hello, Albert, your audio is gone. Yes. Your audio is gone, Albert. Could you do something about it, please?
I think it's
yeah, Sean, I can hear you. I think it's his network.
Yeah,
I think he's trying to resolve it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should just give him a couple of minutes for him to resolve that. But while we wait for him, can we just can the participants just indicate how many of you have gotten some sort of investment into your startups, or how many of you are looking towards securing investment in your startups? Just by the way of chats, can you just let us know? So if you've gotten an investment before, just indicate in the chat box. And if you're yet to get an investment, so also let us know while we wait for Albert to sort out the audio.
Hello, I'm back. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, yes, we can hear you, Albert. Welcome back.
Okay, thank you. I'll switch network. I think they should be well. Please, I am not sure if you heard me complete my introduction.
I think we had up
Hello,
to
Albert.
you
I
being
think
the youngest manager in British Council.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Basically, that's what actually ended. So that's good and well. So yes.
There was something about Liverpool.
Oh yes, I was saying that actually my grandfather Liverpool and he left. I have an option. It's an inheritance. Sorry, I just received a text message from MTN that they are having internet challenges in Ghana. So I'm not understanding why my network is behaving this way. Forgive me.
All right. So is it going to affect our presentation, or do you have an alternative network to switch to? Albert, could you hear me? Is it possible to switch to a different network? Is Albert still here? If Albert is not speaking, Sean, please, could you run us through while we're waiting for Albert to come in? Maybe just a brief overview, and then you were asking the participants if they have anyone who's investing yet. Okay, I think Albert is back.
Yes, I have switched to, I just received a text from MTN that they're having internet challenges. So I've switched to Vodafone. So I'm hoping that's stable.
All right, that's fine, sir. So you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you think this would affect your video? Are you able to do video?
I won't attempt doing the video, but I think I'll do my slides.
Okay, that's right. All right. Go on then. Thank you.
So do you want me to proceed with my presentation, or do you want to, what do you want us to do this?
Yes, please, you can proceed with the presentation.
Okay.
Because we're short on time.
That's fine. Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen again. I suppose you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yes. So basically, my presentation covers these three parts: inside the investor's mind, navigating investment challenges, and pitching perfection. So because of time, let's quickly go ahead. So inside the investor's mind, everything I'm going to share here are based on my own personal experiences and observations and interactions with people. So there are nothing like principles or theories I'm going to share, be bombarding you with. And these are not things that are necessarily in books or things outside there. These are really things that I have experienced the last 13 years, being an entrepreneur myself, trying to raise investment myself, getting to the point where I was able to do that. And now at a point where I'm actually also investing in others. And during these 13 years, I have met lots of different kind of people who I would classify as investors or people who are looking for investment. And my whole presentation is around the stories I've heard and I've experienced myself. To give you an idea, I'll introduce you to some of the investors I've met in my life. So these are 4 people I want to quickly talk about. The very first one, it's this gentleman. The first one is Benjamin Opoko. This is a typical example of the kind of independent investors I've met. There are many of them, but I think he's a nice example to use. So Benjamin comes from a family where the parents have been entrepreneurs for a long time. So growing up, he was able to quickly establish himself based on his background. And as such, at a very early age, I would say he has, in quotes, spare money, where he's looking to put this money. He usually looks for smaller businesses, people who need between $5,000 and $20,000. And that's the kind of investment he likes. So I know a number of people like this. Independent investors, they don't have a particular office where you go and see a name written XYZ Ventures or XYZ investors. No, they just walk around, they have their money, and if they find a business they like, they will put their money into it. Then you have someone like Nelson Amo. Nelson actually runs an organization called InnoHub. InnoHub is specifically set up to invest in small businesses. They do between $10,000 and $100,000. And they have a firm. It's not a very big venture capital firm, but that's a place where they are. And that's the ticket size they deal with. So if you've been able to prove your concept, you've been able to launch your business, or it's making some level of sales, and you're looking at going to a pre-seed funding or Series A, or to scale to other cities, these are the kind of people they are interested in. But at least Nelson will be expecting that you have started something. He's not going to give you money to start something. You should have started. You can demonstrate that it's profitable, or it will be profitable, and you have reasons to prove so. And you're not looking for more than 100,000 for their first investment in you. I know they've been able to do up to 300,000, but 90% of their investment is around between $10,000 and $100,000. Now, let's talk about the third person, Kelvin. It's a serial entrepreneur. He come to the point where he is now investing in businesses. He's the owner of a, and currently have incubation acceleration programs in Miami, in London, and they are coming to Accra in October. Kelvin typically invests in startups, and his purpose really is to make sure that you're able to get your first $1 million in sales, and then he can lead you to bigger investors who can now invest in you, and he can recoup a greater percentage of his investment. So his ticket size around $50,000. That's what he invested in. Interesting, the very first investor I really met in person and in my life was this man called Howard. Howard works with a company in the US which is called August Capital. And as you can tell from the name, they are a premium investment firm. The least investment they do, the very least they do is $500,000. Typically, their sizes are $500,000. So these four men are typically the kind of investors I have met in my last 13 years. Small, medium, I'll say semi-medium and hardcore investors. Please, am I still audible at your end?
I can hear you clearly. Please, participants in the chat box, if you are having a challenge, please indicate in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay. Now, let me continue. So the first person I've met of all these four really was Howard. So in 2023, I was at Stanford University, and I participated in a program called Technology Entrepreneurship Program, where we're put in teams and we're asked to come up with an idea and work on it and try to build a prototype. Now, the good thing about Stanford is that a lot of alumni are in this whole investment sector, entrepreneurship sector, and I think you've all heard a lot of them. A lot of Stanford graduates who have gone on to build big things in life. After the program, we were selected as one of the top 3 from the program. And then I got an email from the head of the program saying that they wanted us to talk to Howard Hattenben. I was like, I didn't know who he was. And I just said, okay. And the next day, this man called and we had a Skype meeting. I had no idea who was that one. Sorry, am I back? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back. Yes, you're back.
So I had to and sorry everyone, I just switched to my mobile network, and unfortunately anytime a phone call comes in, it breaks my network. I'm sorry about that. So I hope you can hear me and I'll continue. So he called and he told me that, look, I'm having this call with you only because Stanford recommended you. And I typically only make this call to just about a few people in a month. He said, I only talk to 10 startups a month. And I'm calling because you were recommended by Stanford. Okay. And he invests in only 10 in a year. So he talks to 10 startups a month and he ends up investing in a maximum of 10 a year. So in a year, this man invests no less than $25 million in businesses. He was very clear. You have 20 minutes to tell me why I should invest in you and how much you want and how much I'm getting from you. So it was really just simple 3 questions. And he said we had 20 minutes to convince him to do that. I started talking about the idea and talking. He just cut me off and he says, look, I don't invest in ideas. So you can put that aside. Now tell me, I'm going to invest in you. Why should I give you my money? Who are you? Tell me about you and your team. I want to know you people. As for ideas, I can tell you there are many sitting on my desk, and your idea is not different from any other idea. Sorry, I'm back. So that was a really big trough and we couldn't continue. So he said, okay, so how much do you want for me? We were not so sure. We gave him a figure. He says, can you show me a one-pager that proves that the amount of money you want from me is this amount? We couldn't show that. They asked, okay, so who else is giving you money? We didn't know what to say. Then he ended up saying, you guys are not ready for funding. So within less than 10 minutes, we're done talking with Howard. And he said, you're not ready for funding. You are not the kind of business I fund. And it was really true. So we didn't get any funding from Howard. But what I did was to send him a message later and to call him. And over the years, he became a close friend. Long story short, we become quite friendly. He's not invested in us at the moment because at the moment, I don't really need investment from him, but he was the first investor I actually properly met. And that experience was really, really one I learned from. Okay. Next one is Nelson. I met Nelson in 2015 at the British Council. British Council was running a program called Blazing Trail, where young people came, attended a 3 weeks program on entrepreneurship, and then they brought Nelson to talk to them. Nelson will come and always sit at the back and just look at these people all day. He doesn't talk much. He doesn't say anything. And when he got to the he just left. He never sat in any of the pictures, which I found quite strange.
Hello, Albert, if you can hear me, your network is really poor again. If you can hear me, Albert, your network is really, really poor. I think a number of people on the chat are also complaining.
Out of every 100 people he meets, only 20 are worth talking to. Not
Hello? Hi, Albert. Can you hear me? Hello, Albert.
I think the network has actually
thrown him out.
yes, entirely. So,
and I was really enjoying this presentation, but the drag is really bad.
Yeah, I think that's what it's trying to resolve. So I think you might need to have maybe like 2 sets of internet, because if you're using your mobile, you know how mobile can be. A lot of people might be trying to at the same time. So guys, we are sincerely sorry about that. We'll reach out to him back end and then just canceling on what to do. Earlier, I was asking for feedback in terms of people that have been able to get investment and the people that haven't gotten investment that are looking forward to. And this is just something I'm trying to even just get these data sets because and then also if you have not gotten, can you just maybe share where you've looked for investment? Because I know when we were in our previous class on Monday, I discussed with you guys that the best way for you to start even positioning yourself for investment is to ensure that you bootstrap. And because this helps you get a lot of milestone and privileges. And if you listen to what Albert said earlier, that the first time he had conversation with the August investor, he told him that I'm not going to invest in your ideas, but I'm going to invest in you. Right. And one of the ways that you can prove that you're worthy for an investment, it's the resilience you've shown over time. An example of that is, so imagine that for the past 6 months or 7 months that you've been playing around with an idea, you've moved the idea not from just an idea to creating your first prototype. And when I mean prototype, I mean the first design or the first lookalike of your product. So let me even just use an example of someone here. Okay, so Gibbs Kelvin from Malawi, Director of GSD Digital and Research Center. Basically, we exist to bridge the digital skills gap in Chitipa and Malawi at large. Awesome. So I think I did an example of with Gibbs business last on Monday. Okay, so Albert is back. Albert. Okay, so let's just, so let me use an example of
sorry, if something is internet, it's
okay. So how about welcome back?
Thank you. Please, if you could allow me to share my screen again. So my screen sharing is disabled.
You should be able to do that now, Albert.
Okay,
Please
I'm
try
back.
again.
Okay. So please, I'm so sorry about the interruptions. What was the last thing you heard me say?
Okay, we lost you at
The last thing you said, yes, you started talking about Nelson and we lost you.
Yes, okay.
You talked about him walking into a room and that was where we lost you, I believe.
Yes, good. So Nelson walked into a room, he will sit there and look at all the participants doing their stuff. And strangely, when he gets to the pitching, he always left, which I found strange for an entrepreneur, an investor who will not necessarily sit in to listen to pitches. But he told me that, look, he can make up his mind quickly and he doesn't necessarily need to listen to pitches. For him, what was important was your management team. Who was your management team? Who are the people around you? Who are the people who are going to make sure you succeed? Who are the people you know? He was more concerned about that. And he told me one thing, I don't invest in pitchpreneurs. And I was like, pitchpreneurs? What do you mean? He says, well, most of the time when people pitch, 90% of the thing they talk about is the idea. And for him, that's not the most important thing in business success. The most important thing in business success was the person's attitude, and a few other things. So Nelson invests, again, he said invest in people and not necessarily in the idea. Because he said the idea is good. Everybody believes the idea is good and the idea can work. But for him as an investor, what he's looking for is more on the person themselves. So he says, and he always says, can this person pull this off? The idea, several people can have the same idea. They can do the same thing, but some will succeed at making it work, some will not succeed. And for him, the key question to ask himself is, can this person pull this off? Nelson's words are opinions, figures are facts. He always says, shows me the numbers. What are your numbers like? How much are you making? How much are you selling? What's your revenue? What's your caps? These are the things he's concerned about. Yes, the words are fine, but for him, figures are facts. He says you're either making money or making noise. So what's your money making plan? Interesting. So for him, again, you have to see it as a business, and stories are fine, but all in all, he's an investor. He wants to see how you make money. He says, I only need 20 minutes to make up my mind about person before I put in their money, which was really interesting because, again, as I shared my experience with Howard a couple of years again, he just said he also needed just 20 minutes to talk to us. So it seems like investors don't seem to go beyond 20 minutes for certain reasons. They make up their mind very quickly within 20 minutes. He says, I'll lose over half of the investments I make, but I'll invest in those who have failed again. So, which I found quite strange. And he says he was ready to invest in businesses he had given money who had failed than even new ones. It would take me some time before I realized, yes, it was similar to what Howard had done. And I'll get to a point where I explain a bit more on this. Quickly, let me go to Benjamin Appiah. This is a person who invests in smaller, very small business who I met in 2018. He came to Hyperspace, which is a hub similar to Kavik, and was looking for startups. Again, he wasn't so much interested in pitches. He will come for the social events, and during the social events, just talk to people. He never presented himself as an investor. He will never tell you he's an investor. He just have a conversation with you. And then if he likes you, he asks you, also tell me a bit about your behavior about record keeping. How do you keep records? Can you show me your records? He kept asking the startups this, and none of them knew he was actually trying to invest in them. But for him, the most important thing he said is a person who keeps good records of their business is the kind of person he likes to invest in. It tells them a lot about their character and a lot about their attitude. One other question he asks is, can you beat Treasury bills rate? So in Ghana, the Treasury bill rate is what the government gives you for giving your money to government. Now he says, for example, he can go put his money in Treasury bills and he gets interest from the government. So why should he give you your money if he can't beat Treasury bill rate? Remember, this is an independent investor who runs his own business, has some excess money, and is looking for somewhere to put it. If he can put it in Treasury bill, fine. But if you can't beat Treasury bill, the only reason why he give you his money is if you can show you have a clear plan to beat Treasury bill rate and become quite profitable. He's very simple in his point. He can't wait for 5 years. No, he can't wait for 5 years before you make profit and you make revenue. He's not the kind of person that will invest in you. He will prefer to go to lunch with you than to hear you pitch. And he just says, I don't like pitches. I like to go with lunch and we talk. I want to get to know the person I'm investing in. And at lunch, when people eat, he says that when people eat, they are happy. When people are happy, they talk. And when people talk, they don't think too much about what they talk about at lunch. That's where he gets to know the real people who he's going to invest in. Surprisingly, he asked that, how many bank accounts do you have? And I kept asking him, why does he ask that? He says, because he wants to invest in people who know how to separate their personal lives from their business lives. And he tells me the kind of investments he makes are very small investments, $5,000, $10,000. So these are really, really small early stage businesses. But he wants to be sure that you are not the kind of person who mixes your personal spending with business spending. You're not going to pay your children's school fees from the revenue of the business, which is very typical of very small businesses. So he asks you, how many bank accounts do you have? Do you have a personal bank account? Do you have one for your business? Even if you have not registered your business, he wants to see 2 bank accounts and see that you know how to separate your business life from your personal life. He mostly invests in things that are fast moving. So mainly necessities, things that quickly are bought. There's a broader market base for it. And he knows that there's revenue is generated every day. One very odd question he keeps to ask in his informal discussion with people is, which I found quite odd initially. Like, well, in African culture, that their children are the ones who take care of them going forward. So if your parents are not working, your parents are not earning, their responsibility will become yours, and you would touch the business money to take care of your parents. So he likes to know what your parents do for a living. If your parents are unemployed, strangely, he won't invest in you. Finally, let me talk about Kelvin Jackson. Kelvin, I met in 2022, just about a year ago. We met at Tech in Ghana. It's a big program that happens in London. I took Kelvin out for lunch and we talked for over 2 to 3 hours. And I learned so much from him. At this point, I already was investing in businesses, but he changed the way I thought about how I invested in businesses myself. Some of the points he said was this: I know the figures that you bring to me won't work. So he was saying that if you come with him with all this, your 5-year plan or 5-year revenue target, he says, I know they won't work. He says the numbers that are pitched to investors are predominantly made up. And the world is moving so fast that if you come to me with 5-year investment plan or this revenue plan, it won't work. But bring it. I want to see it. It shows me that you have a clear plan and know what you have to. But I know it won't work. He says, you have to be a likable person. I'm a human being and I like people who are likable. I just have to feel a connection with us, with between me and you. Your idea might be fine, but if I don't find you likable, I won't invest money in you. So that was also interesting. Again, I saw a certain theme. People invest in people, not necessarily the idea. The idea is, yes, it's what will make the money, but it's the people, the person who makes the whole difference. And I asked him, so how do you decide on really what is going to work? He says, there's no science to tell which idea is going to break grounds. And an investor might decide that this idea won't work. Another investor might believe it will work. So there's no really great science. And it all comes back to the experience of the investor. It comes back to the areas of their knowledge. And therefore, don't feel that if one investor says no, or even tells you, look, this idea will not work, it doesn't mean that you won't find another investor who will say, wow, this is great, this will work, because there's no science to it. So don't let a no from one investor put you down. It just won't work for them. It doesn't mean that it will not work for another investor. He says you have to have the right and convincible or believable attitude. And that's what the investor is looking for. Do you have the right attitude to really make this idea work? Can you convince him? He tells me only 2 out of the 10 that I'll put money in will work. But what I want to know is that, are you someone who will die to protect my money? I know you lose the money. I know 8 of these people will lose my money. But what I want to see is, how far would you go to protect losing that money before that money runs out? Because anything could happen for you to lose the money. But I want to give my money to somebody who would die in protecting my money. Which made it interesting for me, remembering that Nelson said, I will invest in somebody whose business has failed before. Because that person, he says, who knows how to fail will die for your business. He also mentions that for the kind of investors he invests in, he knows that they need money to survive, and he takes that into consideration. So when you bring your figures and you don't include a salary for yourself, he says, then you're going, how would you commit yourself to the business that you're going to build if you yourself are not satisfied? So always come with him with a plan that shows not only how you would want money to grow the business, but also show that you want a salary for yourself. So Kelvin actually gives all his investors $10,000, $100,000 a year just for their own upkeep, because he knows, look, you have to survive. But again, as I said, he's investing at a very high level, so it might not be practical for small-time investors. Finally, this is what he says: no one wants to feel that they are throwing hard-earned cash into the gutters. So no investor, and I think this runs across every kind of investor, I mean, they want to be sure that although they know they might lose, and out of them, they know they'll lose out of every 10, but they still don't want to feel like they're just giving money to people who go about and lose their money. They want to be sure that even if you're going to lose their money, you did all you can to make that idea work. And that's why the human being to them is much more important than the idea. So let me summarize all the things I've said from these 4 kinds of people. There are different kinds of investors with different ticket size, and I'll talk a bit more about this. They lose more than they make, yeah, in terms of the number of people they invest, not about in terms of the overall investment itself. They know that 2 out of every 10 that they might put their money in will not work. And I'm the same. I have put my money in about more than 10 startups and businesses. And I can tell you that many of them, it didn't work out. Many of them, I had high hopes, they didn't work out. But yes, usually 2 out of the 10. But you're looking for 2 who will cover the losses of even the other 8. They understand that risk and they take that risk. And they are not fearful of losing their money, but they are not ready to throw their money just away because they know they'll lose money. And that's why they say they look for someone who will die before they lose their money. So idea is a starting point for an investor. But for them, who you are who really you are is what decides whether they'll put their money into you or not. Many of them don't care about your things, but you need to have them. You need to be able to show them, because it helps them have a better understanding of who you are, how you understand finance, how you understand business, how you understand operations. But in their heads, they know all those projections will make don't work. And if you talk to seasoned entrepreneurs like Philip, who is on this call himself, or other people, they'll tell you, we make projections of sales ourselves, like in the next 1 year, I'll make these sales. By the end of the year, it doesn't work out. You hire people expecting that they'll do A, B, and C, doesn't work out. So we know these kind of projections, they know it won't work, but they know that you have a plan and you're going to work with those plans and change it as it goes. So, finally, they are humans very soon. So they are not strange people, they are humans, and we treat them as humans. And for them, relationship is also very important. Finally, you must be a likable person. Be a likable person. Be able to convince, have a believing attitude, believe in what you have to do, and let that come true as well. Would you die even if you're going to lose it? They want to know where the money, you did all you can. It's just that you took the money and wasted it. And that is why they'll be ready to invest in you again, even if you fail. The big time entrepreneurs understand that you need money to survive, and they take that into consideration. Even small entrepreneurs in some way, investors in some way, know that you need to be able to survive as a human. You have daily needs, and no wonder somebody like Benjamin says, look, I want to know about your parents. I want to know whether you have different bank accounts. I want to know how you are separating your personal life from your business life. And you need to be able to show them that you've taken this into consideration, or else you end up spending their investment on your own self. Finally, investment money is not free money. Okay, so don't make an investor feel like they just thrown their hard-earned money into the gutters. So that ends the very first part of my presentation, in the minds of investors. Now let's see what, as an entrepreneur, what could be some of the challenges you face in trying to raise investment. First question is, where do you find these investors who are most likely ready to put money into investment, or your entrepreneur? From my personal experience, and the very first one that I want to talk to you about is called Google Ventures. So Google Ventures invests in lots. There's no way to contact them, which I found quite strange. Later, I realized there was a certain pattern with the big investors as well. Some had come back, a lot of them said, we would approach you, or you will find you. It was quite strange site. If your idea is working, who will lead you to us or find you? So you're looking for investment, you can't contact the people, and what they tell you is that you find ideas, you find people who will lead you to us, or we will find you. In my experience, I realized that a lot of the big investments you hear, they were not from a pitching session. You just hear that, oh, so and so have raised $1.2 million from so and so. You never hear they went to pitch for it or things like that, and you just don't know how people do it. But then there's how they do it. They are always doorkeepers. The doorkeepers are the people who lead you to investment. So where do you find them? Well, this is an example of where you can find them. Attend events by people who know the doorkeepers. So it could be attending an event at Kavik. Kavik will bring these people at the event. And then you get to meet the doorkeepers. So hubs, incubators, now they are bound in Africa. And this is a place where you can start finding them. Also, big events that happen. So I call it go where the action is. When you go there, try to make friends, not just contacts. We're usually in the habit of, oh, let's exchange contacts. And then 1 week down the line, you put a card somewhere and you don't get in touch. No. And it's not about the number of cards you take. You should be clear about the kind of investor you're looking for. And I'll talk a bit about that very soon. And you make friends with people who can open doors. And look at my word, not just contact, friends. Become friends with those people. I have this picture down there of me and my good friends in general before she led me to an investor. She introduced me to investors. She mentioned this is always my friend. It means that you have to be a likable person. You can only be likable. You can only be friends with people who are likable. So be good to people. And, you know, I don't know how to tell you to be a likable people, but you have to be a likable person. Give your time. Make time for others. Philip is my friend. I can say so. He's visited my home in Ghana. He's ate jollof in my house. I've visited his family in Nigeria. I've been to Abuja. I've slept in his house. He makes time for me. I make time for him. If I need something and I call Philip, Philip will do it for me. It wasn't because we met once, that first thing, then he opens on, I opened doors. No, it's taken us at least, I think, 3 years of our relationship to get to a point where both of us are comfortable to be able to introduce each of us to investors without a second thought. It takes time, but unfortunately, that's how it happens. You can't do anything about it. Go to lunch. Everybody eats, even the rich people eat. Take them out. Learn so much. You will learn so much. So take your gatekeepers out for lunch. So for me, for example, when I go to Tech in Ghana, what I do is I stay a couple of days after and just book lunch meetings with people. So for example, I met Kelvin at Tech in Ghana. We just had a few minutes to talk and I said, Kelvin, when are you free next week? Can I have lunch with you? He says, yes. We have lunch for 2 hours. We talked a lot and I learned so much with that. And from there, you actually become friends. You know, you keep in touch and you talk. So yes, everybody eats. I realize lunch really works. Always have a one-pager of your business on hand. It could be in your head or it could be on your phone, but if you have something you could quickly share with people, it doesn't take them long to read. All in all, it takes time, but this is how you find people. I like the bamboo a lot because they say the bamboo is a plant that spends 5 good years and when it finally shoots after building is
Hello, Albert.
5 years.
Your audio has gone off again.
Always 3 months to become one less grass in the world. An investor gets into the business and have the gatekeepers in the gate. Is it clear?
Sorry, Albert, we lost you. Your audio has gone off again. Just when you started talking about bamboo, it went off again. Could you please repeat?
Hello, can you hear me now? Is it back?
Yes, yes, you are clear again. So could you just do a yes, thank you.
So talking about the bamboo. Bamboo spends 5 years of its life developing its roots. So for the first 5 years, it's a very short tree. You might even think it's not growing, but it's building its roots 5 good years. And then after 5 years, it just takes 3 months to become the tallest grass in the world. So bamboo is actually a grass. So it's relationships. It takes time to build the friendships and the partnerships with people. But then once you build that right, it just takes a spark for you to get the investment. And I made reference to this interesting quote by a man called Tom Clancy, who says, what we might consider an overnight success is actually 10 years in the making. Basically alluding to the point that spend time to build relationships, spend time to find the gatekeepers, spend time to have lunch with them, know them, build trust with them, and they will lead you to the investment that just takes a day, 2 days, 3 days to change everything for you through an investment. Second thing, and I see that every investor is interested in this. Why should I trust you? Do you have your own skin in the game? Every investor wants to know whether you protect their investment. And first, they want to know if you can protect their investment, you need to have made your own sacrifices for your idea. Now, have you put your own personal savings into your idea? How much have you put in there? Have you put your all in it? Because they are coming to magnify what you have started. How many of your friends and family have put their money into what you do? Okay. So usually you need to put your own skin in the game, and you need to use your own money or money from your friends and family to get your business started. It's very difficult for an African, and sorry that's a reality, and based in Africa, to give you somebody to give you $100,000, $200,000 to go test whether your idea works. In Africa, that usually happens. You have to start something. You have to have started something, and that most likely, sorry to say, might have to come from personal savings or family and friends. Or go to hubs, Kavik, Hyperspace. They have incubation programs. These might not earn you much, but these are not initial investment. They most likely grant money, they are free money. Get into competitions. And my picture is showing here, one of the competitions I went to. Win some small money there. Get $2,000, get $3,000. These are competitions. And technically, these are not monies you have to pay back. But these are monies that you have to put into the business to be able to show that you can be profitable. You're able to prove your concept, prove your MVP. You need to have this basis. As you're doing that, plow back the profit. Don't go spending it. Investors want to know that you want to scale and that you're doing all you can do to scale. Show that you can do that. Show that you've validated your MVP, your minimum viable product. The idea that you're going to is earning the revenue. When you do these things, you're able to prove to them that, yes, you've put your all in it. Your parents or friends have put money into it. You've won some competitions. You've put the money into it. Last 2 years, or a year ago, you were able to raise revenue of so and so. You've used the revenue to go back into the business. Then you are convincing an investor that you are somebody who is worth giving their money to. And even if you fail in that investment, trust me, they'll be ready to invest in you a second time. Are you trustworthy? You need to demonstrate that there's somebody they can trust. And sometimes they look at who trusts you. Demonstrate that you can money and make you try to get those kind of lists. It is a way of showing that you are somebody who is trustworthy. Win awards. Yes, go for competition, win awards. They help in it. Build relationship with the gatekeepers so that they lead to referrals. Watch what you post online, because all of that builds into people judging you as whether you are a trustworthy worthy person. Of course, your dress and grooming, you don't actually need to dress expensively, but people make judgments. People make impressions from just how you look, from how you dress, how you talk, all of that. Watch those things, because you must be a likable person and you must be a person they can trust. One of my several stories on how we recently raised 2 million euros for Hyperspace. In 2013, I met this gentleman called Ato. Philip, am I still audible? Can you still hear me? Am I clear?
Yes, you are. Yes,
Good.
you are. Go on. Go on.
Now, this story is a summary of all the things I have said. In 2013, which basically means 10 years ago, I went for an event called Barcamp where I met the founder called Ato. I met him, I talked to him, we became friends. The next year, I said, look, I like what you guys are doing. I'm a small business. I don't have much. I can't, fund you. But here's $50 as my small sponsorship of Barcamp. He was impressed that I was ready to give him $50 at that time. And to be very truthfully to you, $50 was all I could afford to spare at that time for their next Barcamp. But he was very grateful. I gave him $50. I sponsored that. Now, Ato's boss at Google is Estelle. Ato introduces me to Estelle in 2014. Estelle became friends with Estelle, and Estelle was trying to do a project here in Ghana for Google. And for 2 months, we at HyperWeb did that project for Google for free. Not a single time we asked for anything. We used to travel to Accra every 2 times a week to do that work for Estelle. Estelle later felt like, look, I like you guys. You guys are committed to what you do. And Estelle was the first person who helped us raise $40,000 from Google for a project in the next, a year later. So you see, friendship, spend time, put your skin in the game, give something out. It always leads to another result. Estelle introduced us to Akosia Annabelle in 2015 and said, look, Akosia Annabelle is the person who organizes tech in Ghana and the UK. And he tells Akosia, you need to get Albert and Gideon to talk about their organization at Tech in Ghana. Look, I'll vouch for them. Estelle vouched for us. We go to Tech in Ghana in London. We speak at the event in 2016. Akosia loves Gideon, and I think Philip has met Akosia through Gideon as well. We became friends, and Akosia introduced me to Eunice and tells Eunice, look, you need to, anytime you're in Ghana, you have to meet these 2 guys, okay? Eunice comes to Ghana. He couldn't get to meet. She goes back to London. We meet in London. We had a very interesting discussion, and Eunice says, look, I think you need to talk to this guy called Odum. A very difficult guy to get. Eunice sends him an email, copies me. I get to meet him. Now, Odum works with Google London. And he says, oh, okay, you know Eunice. Oh, Eunice is a good friend. And then we're talking and say, you know Estelle. Estelle has Googled in Ghana. I said, yes, Estelle's actually my friend. And I showed him this picture. I said, Then he calls Estelle, and then Estelle says, oh, you with Albert? And we talk over the phone. Then he calls someone at Google and says, that EDU project you wanted to do in Africa, is this still ongoing or you done? The guy says he's still going, he's still looking for a partner. He says, I have your partner right here. He does a call with him. Right then the guy says, okay, meet us in London in 2 weeks' time. In 2 weeks' time, we ended up with $500,000 to invest in HyperWeb. And today we are Google's biggest local partner in Ghana. But it didn't end there. Eunice introduced Gideon to a just last year in 2021. So this is it's what I will say is an example of the story of all the things I've been talking about. None of these was something that came into the public. It was all gatekeepers introducing you to people, people introducing you to people, becoming a likable person, finding who will take you next, go for lunch with people, meet people, be frank, be open, engage with people. They would lead to other places and will lead to investments for you. That is how I have seen it. I want to share with you a few other stories, but I have a lot because of time. Let me just do one more. There's this guy called Kingsley. Kingsley runs a company called Kudigo in Ghana. The first image I have here is him in Ghana 50, and you see the list of sponsors there. You see Kudigo, that's his company there. They sponsored a big event in Ghana and they didn't give much. I think they sponsored for just at that time $200 or $400 or $1,000. I don't remember the exact money. But what it did get them was it gave them the opportunity to speak at this huge event. It gave them brand recognition out there. In fact, it made them look like a very huge company, which they were not at that time. But by speaking there and being at that event, he gets to meet this lady. So this lady is called Letitia Brown. And Letitia Brown has spent, the majority of her life in the US. She's of Ghanaian parentage, but more of an American. And she knows almost every important person in Silicon Valley, okay? She gets to like Kingsley. They become friends. And Letitia introduced him to her friends in Silicon Valley. Within 5 months, Kudigo had raised $450 in funding in seed round. This is seed funding, right? And that's Letitia Brown's company, Founders Factory Africa, where she also is on the board and gets him that funding. She has gone ahead to help Kudigo move from a team of only 2 people at the time she met them, there were about 3 people, to now a large team. This was their team way back in 2020 when I last went there. And now they have raised more than $4 million or so in revenue the last time I was reading. So you see again that it starts from winning some small competitions here, getting yourself recognized out there, getting to be where the action is, meeting the right people, engaging with them, becoming friends with them, and letting them open doors for you. So I will skip the ad example, but this again emphasizes the point I want to make, that investors are human beings. Become friends, be a likable person, have a clear plan, and they will lead you to other investors. Okay. Let me end by much people who will sit into pitches. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. But you need to know how to pitch, because a pitch is not just having PowerPoint slides and talking about your business. Even when you're talking to investors, you need to pitch what you're doing. And I realized that you need to know the kind of investors to know what you pitch. I'll quickly give you examples here. I've seen that the investors I have met, they fall into 3 kinds of areas. They're the investors who invest in things that want to make, they only invest in businesses that are reliable, stable, they are not risky, they expect very low returns, they will provide you with patient capital, and their interest really is dividend. An example of this is Benjamin I spoke with, who is a small-time investor. If you are somebody whose business around daily needs, food, shelter, clothing, education, health, He knows these areas are very stable areas. Everybody eats, everybody needs to wear something, everybody needs to have health. Parents will take their children to school. If that's the area where you are, he's the kind of investor you should talk to. So you should know what your product is. If your product around needs, then you're looking for an investor who is more interested in that kind of area. Then you have investors who invest in things that are wants. So these are not necessarily needs, but they are not luxuries as well. So it provides convenience. I have a car. A car is something like convenience, right? These products usually target the middle class. We call them bankable ideas. You can't go wrong. As long as the economy is running, there's a market for it. They are very quite profitable. They are even profitable than the needs, but they could be a competitive area. For you to get investors money from this kind of people, if this is the kind of product you offer, you have to have a very good USP, a unique selling position. What really makes you so much different from the competition? Investors who invest in this area typically make their money when other investors come on board. So for example, they will have 40% of your business at the time when your business is worth, say, $200,000. They work with you to grow the business over 2 or 3 years. Your business moves from a valuation of $200,000 to, say, $2 million. So now their 40% of the business, which was just something like $40,000, has now become $400,000. At this point, they're ready to sell out and get out $400,000 for another investor to come in. And that's how they make their money. So they're not necessarily interested in dividends. They are interested in how other investors will come and for them to exit you. So when you talk to them, you need to be able to position that and for them to know that that exactly is how they are going to make their money. Then the final one, it's what I'll categorize as a luxury part. Now, these are not necessarily necessities, but they happen a lot in the tech sector. And these are all things I'll say they could be the next big thing. So currently things around AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence, these are the trending thing. What do you call it? Cryptocurrency. They trend. They are not necessarily wants, they're not necessarily needs, but these are what we call black swan investment. They could become huge. A couple of years ago, mobile phones didn't exist. Mobile phone was more like a luxury. Today it's a want. Social media didn't exist. And the few people who invested in social media and those companies have made it huge, big time. Crypto didn't exist. The people who invested in it made some really huge monies as well. Now, I think we all know the next big thing, it's AI, and there's the metaverse. These are the kind of huge investments, very, very risky. Majority of them doesn't work out, but those that work out, they become extraordinarily billionaires if those things happen. So if your idea is around this kind of exponential profit areas, revolutionary ideas, then you should also know the kind of investors you have to approach. And they usually have high sale value, and most of them make their money through IPOs when these businesses go onto the stock exchange. So there are different kind of category, different kind of investors, and they all make investment based on the kind of things you are into. You need to know what your area is, and therefore you need to know whether you are a bread and butter idea, you're a mini cab idea, or your luxury watch idea, and therefore know who you approach. Let me give you a few examples. So let's take the bread and butter. This is my co-founder, Gideon. He's an investor. He usually invests maximum $10,000 in businesses. He doesn't go beyond $10,000. So you can see that it's really in the needs area. He's always looking for ideas that have a digital angle. So they're the everyday ideas, everyday things. He recently invested in a fashion app startup by this gentleman here. The only thing that happens here is that he's designed an app for tailors which allows me, I take my clothes to a tailor, I can use the app to see where the tailor has got to. The tailor can use it to keep all my measurements. Really, really an interesting app, which is relevant to only tailors. Tailoring has been around for years. It's not going anywhere. We still continue to wear clothes, but he likes to look at a digital angle. This is a reliable, stable, not risky, low return. That's where he invests. He's also invested in a grocery app where people use it to order grocery. Again, everybody eats. And this is the kind of investment he does, but $10,000. What does he do for you as an investor? Apart from giving you money, he is a gate opener. He leads you to pitches. He knows where for you to go to pitch to get additional money. Like you can see in the picture, one of his startups he invested in recently raised $50,000 after they've proved their concept, and they are going on, and you open them to additional big investors. So again, you have to know the investor who will invest in your business and position yourself for that kind of investor. Let's look at the mini cap idea. So this is Kwame. Kwame is an investor based in Ghana. He comes from a parenthood where his parents already built some good money. He's also built his own company by the age of 38, and now he invests in business. He invests maximum about $200,000 in ideas. He invests in the areas where he knows, basically in real estate, in industry. Recently, I know he invested in a roofing company owned by this gentleman. And this is the company, and then there's a factory where they build metal trusses and roofing sheets. So Kwame chooses an industry where he understands, he knows the industry very well, and he knows that's a high capital intensive area, but he knows that, as I said, it's a bankable area. The middle class will continue to build houses. The middle class will continue to live in houses. They want something nice and stable. So again, it's an area they know, he knows well, he knows it will continue to grow. Although it's competitive, you need to get his interest, you need to show why you are unique. And I think that Golden Man Tech was able to show them what they make unique, and then he gets his to invest in them. So he also asks you who else has, not inverted, but who else has invested in you. He's interested in knowing that. How many people? So at this point, when we spoke, I'd already also invested in this company, but I had just done like $220,000. He's my friend. He says, okay, if Albert has given you $20,000, why not? I'm ready to give you $200,000. So my friend didn't have to pitch. We just had to go to him, and I just had to tell him, look, I've put $20,000 in this business because I believe it will work. He said, okay, if he's put 20,000, I'll do 200,000. Okay. And of course, he wants to know what makes you unique. So he was my friend. He was able to explain to him, and he was able to invest in that. Finally, the luxury business idea. This, remember Howard I talked about at the beginning, who invests minimum of 500,000 up to for revolutionary ideas that will change the world. He was one of the early investors of PayPal, and I think you all know who was behind PayPal, Elon Musk. So he looks for mavericks. He looks at people who change the world with new ideas. He puts good money into Elon Musk's PayPal, and by the time Elon Musk sold PayPal for billions of dollars, it made Howard a billionaire over and over. He also invested some of his money in MySpace. Many of you might remember MySpace was before the days of Facebook. It didn't survive, but even though MySpace did not survive, they sold MySpace to the Madoff company for they sold it for 500 million to the Madoff company before it went bust, and then they sold it for 38 million. But it still made good money because MySpace went for an IPO, and he made his money during the IPO session. Or you make your money through acquisition. So he made his money when PayPal was bought from Elon Musk, was when he made his money. So if you are going to Howard and you have 20 minutes, you have to show him how you can get to IPO or to acquisition and how you can make him a billionaire. Again, he's looking for revolutionary ideas And for him, IPOs are the ways, or acquisitions are the way he will make his huge money. So know your investor and know how they think. Finally, I end on this. There are three kinds of pitches. You have the standard pitch, which is in the middle, 5 to 15 presentations. These are the ones most of us will see hubs like Havik, Hyperspace do. And these are the ones you go with your PowerPoint and, you will show, and then you have judges there who will judge and give you, and you get awards. You might get some small $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Know how to do these ones and go for those $1,000, $2,000 money. It's not payable. Nobody will come and worry you, but use that money to prove your business idea and to start making sales so that you can move on and convince gatekeepers to lead you to bigger investors. Your elevator pitch is a 30-second speech, is the one I would say is what you want to use at events, where you go for an event, it is lunchtime, it is break time, you spotted a gatekeeper, you spotted an investor, and you just go, he's having a cup of coffee, other people want to talk to him or her, he doesn't have time, the maximum you have is 30 seconds, you can quickly pitch that. And the purpose of this is to get him to sit with you another time. So for me, usually, this is the time I just say, hi, my name is Albert, I'm from Ghana, I work with HyperWeb, we're a cloud web computing company, you're looking to expand to other areas, but I think maybe you might be interested in this. Can I have lunch with you on Thursday or Friday or day that's fine with you? Oh, okay, that's fine. Then we change numbers. I call him later, and then we have a meeting where we can talk for longer. So have an elevator pitch, which is, for me, in my view, is your 30 seconds where you can convince somebody to go out with lunch with you, where you can talk later. Then finally, have your investor deck. This is usually what I have prepared on my phone, which are the lunch I will give to the person. It could be maximum of a page. In my case, it's usually about half a page, something very quick, sweet with some few figures. During lunch, as we get to talk, maybe mid-lunch, I just WhatsApp, okay, let me send you this by WhatsApp. As soon as you WhatsApp him, he picks his phone, he looks at it and say, yes, I've received it. It's not too long. It just takes him a minute or two to read through. He reads through, he has a better idea of what you want to do. And then the rest of the conversation now becomes about that. So those are the three main pitches I will talk about and the three areas where you want to use those pitches. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take your questions at this point in time.
All right, thank you so much for that, Albert. I think this has been a very interesting one. There are a couple of questions even on the chat, but the first one I want to bring up to your attention is the one from Knowledge Zengia. She said, how can I know, or he or she said, how can I know if someone is a genuine investor, not someone who just tried to steal my idea?
So first of all, I think, let me pick it from the back. Steal my idea. It's one of the things I hear so many times. And I can tell you that one of the things that I find so strange, let me tell you reasons why. One, there's hardly an idea that's uniquely yours. Now, if you believe that the idea you have, nobody has it, go Google up that idea and you realize certain things. Somebody has done it before. Some of it works for some people, it didn't work for some people. Some people are trying to do it now. You are not the only one with that unique idea, I can assure you. Now, even if it is uniquely yours and nobody else in the world has that idea, even if you start, other people will find out about it and others will start doing it. So what really is unique about it? No. Secondly, many investors, for them, it's not the idea, because 2 or 3 people can have the same idea. It's the execution. An idea is nothing without execution, and they want to be sure you are the kind of person who can execute it. I'm yet to find an investor who steals an idea. They don't have the time to implement the idea. They believe you are the best, you have the idea, you have the better way of implementing, but they have to be sure that you are someone who can pull off that idea. Now, to meet a trustworthy investor, Again, it comes by, as I said, you build relationships. You have to build relationships. It takes time. And don't forget that somebody who's ready to give you their money is not a wicked person. Anybody trying to give you their money is not a wicked person. But you need to build relationships with people. And then sometimes, just like friendship, the fact that me and somebody are not friends doesn't mean that he's a bad person. We just don't flow. So an investor in you might not flow or might not have certain things in common. But yes, I know there are some people out there who maybe are looking for ideas to take off people, but typically I don't meet such kind of people if you build relationships with people.
Thanks for that. There's like 2 questions in the Q&A session. And John Lazarus, you're raising your hand. Can you please just type out the question or the Q&A section so we can take that? God's Gift asks, at what point do one walk up to an investor, even when they don't come to you? And then there's a question from Kelvin, which says, okay, I think the person wants to understand what you discussed during the Google venture. So I think you could just take those 2.
Okay. So at what point do you walk up to an investor, even when they come to
when
you?
They don't come to you, when they don't come to you.
So first of all, when you want an investor, at any point you want an investor, it means that you want to scale what you are doing or to make it bigger. So first of all, you should have started the idea. You should have proven that it is one that is profitable. Because an investor is not a charity, it's not grant, it's a business, and a business must be profitable. So you should be able to show that you started whatever it is you are working on, the idea. You should be at the point where you can show sales, because sales is everything in business. So you should be able to, at that point, you should be able to show the idea, show sales, and then show how you are going to grow and how much you need to grow. So you should have those things. And finally, how much you asking from the investor and what do they get in return? So you need to be able to show those things. The idea is working. You are making sales. You want to expand. How much do you need to expand? And what do they get out by giving you that money to expand? If you have those questions, then answers to those questions, then you're ready to meet an investor.
All right, thanks for that. And then I think they want you to shed more light on the Google venture.
Good.
Sorry, Albert, before you take that, while you are taking that, there's also another question. I think it's from Julius Lazarus. He says he wants to know, must your startup have global relevance before you can get investors to invest in it? Thanks.
So no, it depends. Remember I talked about the bread, the car, and the luxury. So usually the luxury ideas or the big ideas, these huge ideas are the ones that usually have global relevance: social media, crypto, AI, fintech. Yes, those ones need to have global relevance, and there are investors who are interested in those kind of ideas. So, and you have investors who are mainly not looking for those ideas. The investors who are looking for small ideas like Gideon and rest, who have a digital angle. So it's a grocery app. They provide grocery. They've built an app. He's financing the app to reach more people in the local market to become more convenient. So those are those kind of investors. So it really comes back to the kind of investment and the investor. But no, it doesn't really need to have a global relevance before you can get an investor for it. And if the next part of your question was, if you target audience, if your target is mainly the local market, will you still be able to convince investors to invest in it? Yes. There are many investors who feel that, in fact, they want to focus locally. And once you can show that you are growing, so it could just be maybe growing from Lagos to Abuja or otherwise, or you're moving from Abuja and Lagos to 2 or 3 other countries, you're going to other cities, you're going to Kano, or you're going to go to other cities and increase your market size. Yes, there are local investors who are mainly interested in that area. Now, if I can come to Gates' question on the Google Ventures, I was saying that what I found interesting about Google Venture was that when you go to their website, they don't have a contact us page, and they just have a statement that says that if your idea is worth changing and worth our time, you would find the people who will lead you to us, or we will find you. So what I found strange, what was interesting about Google Ventures was that they don't even have an email or a phone number. You could just call them and say, I'm coming to pitch my idea to you. They are saying that, look, if your idea is really good, you will somehow find people who will connect you to us, or we will find people who know you and will connect with you. And it just was a way for me to emphasize that building the relationships with the right people is what really leads you to the investors. I hope this clarifies it.
Thanks so much, Albert. There's a question here that says, can you explain briefly about negotiating equity and receiving the money? And another question also says, okay, this question we will not address today. It says, please touch a bit on the valuation of a startup. Our next session, which I believe is in 2 days, on Friday, will be dealing completely with valuation. So that's for a different thing. Please just, can you explain briefly about negotiating equity and receiving the money? Thank you.
So the 2 questions really are related, actually, the one on valuation of a startup and the question is asked about equity. So I'm happy you're going to have a session on valuation, which goes deeper. So you need to value, before you go into equity, you go for equity negotiation, you should have done some valuation of your startup. You need to go with something. So you should have done a valuation, and your valuation session will go into the types of ways of doing valuation. So you can value your business and say, look, my business at this point in time is valued at $2,000, $20,000, $100,000. And out of this $20,000, if I value my business, say, at $100,000, and I want you to bring in $40,000, then automatically I'm giving you 40%. If I want you to bring in 50,000, then I'm giving you 50%. So the valuation is what goes into the negotiation of the equity. Now, you will also find out more in that valuation session that when it comes to everything, valuation in the end comes to what the investor is ready to agree with. So valuation is usually negotiation, and equity, again, is negotiation, but everything starts from valuation. Having the right valuation and having an agreeable valuation method defines how the equity negotiation will go. When it comes to receiving the money, different investors have different ways, but I can assure you, no investor will give you the full money in one go. Typically, there are milestones for you to reach before you get the money. So usually you will state your milestones that at so and so, when we reach this, we need this amount of money. At so and so point, we'll do this when we need some money. So the money will come in trenches, and you will have milestones to reach before the next money is released to you.
All right, Albert, I think you've done amazingly well. Thank you so much for also taking the time to take our session a bit longer, even though at great cost to your time, and helping us just overcome the lapses we had earlier with the technical glitches. I think we've addressed mostly. Sean, could you kindly please, where do we go from here? Thank you.
Okay, hi guys. So thank you all for being part of this session. So as a continuation, we would want you all to try and create a pitch deck for your startup, right? And for your startup ideas, or for your startup business, and then send it to our email. You will get our email in the chat box. I think it's cavinnigeria@gmail.com. Send it to us and we'll review it alongside with Albert and then give you feedback. One of the things we would like to see in the first page on your pitch deck, it's your elevator pitch, which is supposed to be like a short statement before you now go about doing your pitch. So let's see what you come up with. We'll give you a review and so that you can have that as a take-home assignment for you to do. Hopefully, if you can send it in before the next session, which is on Friday, that would be great. But if you can send it later than that, we would also accept it to review and give you feedback. Now, this is me personally inviting every one of you to the session on Friday. It's we're going to be talking about valuation of your startups, and it's going to be taken by Kayode Oyewole. Kayode Oyewole has been in the VC space for more than 8 years. Like, it's a guy you want to listen to. He's someone that has ensured that all the checks that have been written for startups in Nigeria came out. Like, it was like the key person in managing VP fund for a lot of time before he started his own startup with one of his partners recently. So you're going to be hearing, he's going to be giving you practical insight into how you can create valuation for your startup. And I think it's a session you don't want to miss. All right, so we're looking forward to having you guys on Friday also, same time, 11 to 12. I know it's going to be a great time. Thank you very much, and do have
before you round this up, I just need to add quickly. Please, I want to ask everyone who's been on this session, I want to congratulate you for being part of it. And I want to ask you to please keep up the spirit, because we put in the chat box that we're collecting businesses and names and addresses. The reason why we are doing this is because we are hoping to pair whoever attends this session with a likely mentor before the entire program is done. You know, someone you can go to where you have a challenge, or two people like Albert and a couple more who are coming, people like Sheon and all that. So I'd encourage us all to remain. Send your links or invite more people to register on the platform so that they can benefit. I'm sure you've all benefited a whole lot from this. I've learned so much from Albert, and I've known Albert for years, but sitting in this session, I've picked up so much that I know is going to be of personal value to me as well. So please spread the word, become our ambassadors, and let quite a number of people also join you. The more, the merrier. So Albert, do you have any last words?
Just want to say thank you so much for people's patience with my internet interruptions and challenges today, and for them staying on until the end. I'm grateful for their time, and I appreciate them all.
Thank you so much for having the time for us. We truly appreciate it. Bearing any other thing from Sheon, I think we can call this a wrap. We look forward to seeing you guys on Friday, and a whole lot more. And like Sheon has said, it's really, if you really want valuation and you want to know how to find out what your business is worth, I think you really want to be part of that session. So barring on the other thing, Sheon, anything else? So I'm going to wrap this up now.
So I've just told them to, reminded them to send in their pitch deck for their startup so we can help them review and give them feedback as a take-home task from today's session. Right.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm also going to ask you to follow us on our social media handles, Kavik Nigeria on Instagram, for most parts, I think on X, on Facebook as well. That way you get privy to information if we have things coming up, if there are business opportunities that we want to share as well. You are likely to get information concerning that. So once again, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for your time. And we look forward to seeing you guys on Friday. Cheers.
Cheers. Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.